Welcome to another episode of the Top 20 Tier List. I'm your host Kevin, and today we'll be counting down the greatest MMA strikers in UFC history. Before we actually get into the top 20, I would like to go through the honorable mentions. And the first fighter that we have is Corey Sandhagen. This guy's probably the most dynamic striker we've seen in the UFC. He's got punches, kicks, elbows, and knees. Just look at his knockout of Marlon Moraes and Frankie Edgar. They were absolutely devastating. This guy's style is probably a combination of Dominic Cruz's footwork, TJ Dillashaw, and a traditional Muay Thai fighter, combining it all together, really making it work. And I'm super excited to see how he does against Umar Nurmagomedov coming up. The next fighter that we have for honorable mentions is Justin Gaethje. This guy is the former BMF title holder, and I would say the epitome of violence. Before his losses against Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier, he would actually put his head down and block with his forehead. He would throw kicks even if he knew they were being checked. I mean, this guy was absolutely insane. After those losses, he's really changed his style. He worked with Trevor Whitman to work on his footwork, moving in and out, shifting, moving sideways. The way he was able to beat Dustin Poirier in that rematch with that head kick is the epitome of the improvements that Justin Gaethje has made in his striking. The next fighter that we have is another Trevor Whitman product, Rose Namajunas. If you guys remember back in the day, Joanna Jędrzejczyk was a super dominant champion that was going undefeated. And Rose Namajunas came out of nowhere and knocked her out in the first round in Madison Square Garden. And like Justin Gaethje, Rose Namajunas has got that crazy footwork going in and out, in and out. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the way she does the rhythm step. If you don't know what a rhythm step is, it's when you open your stance and close your stance. But she makes it work for her. And the way she's just able to style on so many of these fighters makes Rose Namajunas a great striker in MMA. The next fighter we have is heavyweight Ciryl Gane. Now, you probably know by now that I'm a big sucker for footwork. And Ciryl Gane, again, that in and out footwork, the light on his feet. He goes from little taps, little jabs, and tiny leg kicks to devastating shots, devastating hooks, power body kicks like the one against Tai Tuivasa. The way he's just able to mix it up and make it look so elegant and pretty, Ciryl Gane, definitely a legend in the making. The next fighter that we have in the honorable mentions is the 125 GOAT, Demetrious Johnson, the man who's finally going to put down Bradley Martin and stop him from talking about his weight. The way Demetrious Johnson fights, he's able to switch stances and you can't even tell that he's doing it. To give you a perfect example, the knockout that he had against Adriano Moraes, he faked a body knee, planted his front foot, and threw a left hand straight afterwards. The way he's able to change stances in the middle of his combination makes it very difficult for his opponents to track his movements. His footwork, the way he's able to put combinations together in with his wrestling, Demetrious Johnson, probably the most underrated fighter in UFC history. The next honorable mention is Alistair Overeem, the former K1 champion. I do believe this guy has the highest striking accuracy in UFC history. I mean, look at the way he was able to beat Brock Lesnar, completely demolishing his body through knees and all those great striking techniques. Even the fight against Stipe Miocic, when he was running away, he still knocked down Stipe with a punch. I mean, this guy is absolutely incredible, so definitely an honorable mention for sure. The second last honorable mention that we have is Yair Rodriguez. Great arsenal of weapons. He's got punches, but it's the kicks. He's got question mark kicks, spinning kicks. Look at his knockout of the Korean Zombie. In the last second of the fight, he was able to duck and throw a backwards elbow. I mean, who does that? No one else but Yair Rodriguez. The next fighter that we have is Michael Venom Page, MVP. He's only got one fight in the UFC against Kevin Holland, but the way he was able to dismantle Kevin Holland is shocking. The way he was able to shut down everything that Kevin was doing. I actually disagree that it was 29-20. I thought it was 30-27, complete domination. That karate point style. And it made it so that Kevin Holland could not time him at all. Look at his career outside of the UFC. He literally dented another man's skull in. I think the opponent was Cyborg, and the guy's skull was dented in from a flying knee. I mean, this man is literally a human highlight reel, just like Justin Gaethje, and definitely deserves a spot in the honorable mentions. Now, let's look at our number 20. Our number 20 is Petr Yan. Petr Yan, probably the best boxer that we have in the UFC. This guy throws everything behind his punches. Very similar to Demetrius Johnson. He switches stances in the middle of his combinations. This guy was able to outstrike Corey Sandhagen. He was throwing these crazy combinations where he was throwing like hooks into spinning back fists and into a spinning kick. Petr Yan also defeated Jose Aldo to claim the UFC Bantamweight Championship, and we all know just how great Jose Aldo is with his leg kicks, with his striking, etc. But I think the most impressive performance that we've seen from Petr Yan was actually against Uriah Faber. He faced Uriah Faber at UFC 245, and I remember watching it just thinking, oh my goodness, Uriah, please survive, please survive, please survive. And Petr Yan was able to knock him out with a head kick. It was absolutely devastating. Petr Yan, probably the best boxer we have in the UFC for sure. And the next fighter that we have at number 19 is Lyoto Machida. I mean, Lyoto Machida, that karate style, very similar to Wonderboy and MVP, just very unorthodox, that distance. Machida KO'd the UFC light heavyweight champion, Rashad Evans, to claim the title himself with his elusive and precise striking. He crane kicked Randy Couture. I mean, no one's ever seen that before. And he also fought Dan Henderson at UFC 157, again, winning the fight by split decision, using that elusive and technical striking. So many great names on Lyoto Machida's resume. And I know Luke Rockhold has actually been calling out Machida in karate combat, so we'll see if that fight ever happens. It'll be very, very exciting to see for sure. The next fighter that we have is number 18, Edson Barboza. Now, it is a shame that Edson really never got that chance to fight for a title, but he was always right there in that top 5. His spinning kick alone, I mean, look what he did to Terry Etim. The guy was literally as stiff as a board, flatlining him. That Muay Thai style, that devastating leg kick. Even looking at that flying knee KO of Beneil Dariush. I mean, no one does that to Beneil. Edson Barboza, crazy striker for sure. And number 17, we have TJ Dillashaw. I love the way this guy fights. He puts everything together. So exciting. Back when Team Alpha Male had that rivalry with Dominic Cruz, TJ was the main sparring partner for all those fighters like Joseph Benavidez and Uriah Faber to mimic Cruz. And through that, TJ actually adopted many of those footwork patterns within his own style. And then when Dwayne Ludwig came to become the head coach of Team Alpha Male, TJ was able to hone that style even more and really put it into his own. And now he's got these wild head kicks, crazy combinations, switching stances, etc., throwing combinations up to 25 strikes. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. You look at the finishing sequence against Renan Barão in their second fight, and you can just see the caliber of striker that TJ is. Coming in at number 16 is Ilia Topuria. Again, very similar to Petr Yan, he throws his whole body into his combinations. If you guys remember, Ryan Hall, right after he fought Darren Elkins, his hype was at an all-time high, and no one wanted to fight him. And Ilia Topuria was the man that said, I'll take him on. And he literally took all the hype away from Ryan Hall, completely destroyed him. And then he had that savage performance against Josh Emmett as well, where he was using his shoulder rolls and devastating combinations. And then finally, of course, taking the consciousness away from Alexander Volkanovski. Ilia Topuria, that crazy forward pressure, excellent timing and accuracy. I'm very, very excited to see what he does next. Coming at number 15 is a fellow Aussie, Robert Whittaker. This man is so dynamic and has such a diverse striking arsenal. His crisp punching combinations along with his kicks. I haven't seen anyone that has been able to really stop that 1-2 head kick combination except for maybe Israel Adesanya. I mean, he utilizes those kicks and knees so effectively to keep opponents at bay. He displays excellent footwork and movement to create angles for striking, beating Darren Till, Kelvin Gastelum, Derek Brunson, Yoel Romero twice, and then going toe-to-toe with Israel Adesanya as well. Robert Whittaker, an Aussie legend, all the respect. The next striker we have at number 14 is Dustin Poirier. This guy's such a well-rounded striker with his boxing combinations. I was actually just watching a clip of Bryce Mitchell talking about how in a street fight, he would have Dustin Poirier to have his back no matter what. And I honestly agree. This guy's just such a dog. When he smells blood, he's going to throw 20, 30 punches at your face until you drop. He's got excellent durability and cardio and striking exchanges, defeating fighters like Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje, Conor McGregor. I mean, the list goes on and on. Even his last fight against Islam Makhachev showed off that resilience and grit. Dustin Poirier, very well deserved to be number 14. The next fighter we have, and it might be a little bit controversial, but I personally think he's just one of the best strikers in UFC period, is Darren Till. Darren Till, I actually think is so underrated. That Muay Thai based striking style, and he's got that crazy 1-2 combination. No one's really been able to stop it. And he's good at his clinches as well. I mean, when he gets you in that Muay Thai clinch, you're gonna cop knees and elbows. He's just so good with feints and that counter-striking style that he makes every opponent fight at his pace. He destroyed Cowboy, outpointed Wonderboy. I mean, who does that? Who outpoints Wonderboy in his own game? He defeated DDP in the striking exchanges. I understand that he got taken down and submitted, but in those striking exchanges, Darren Till was piecing up the current middleweight champion. And I'm super excited to see how he does against Julio Chavez Jr. in his upcoming boxing fight. And I think if he does well in that fight, it's his ticket back into the UFC for sure. The next fighter that we have is Dominick Cruz. I mean, I love Dominick Cruz. Dominick Cruz is probably my favorite fighter ever. Just the fact that he's got that unorthodox footwork, developing his own style, the way his mind works as well. He's so resilient, shows so much grit. We've never really seen anyone else come back from 3 ACL reconstructive surgeries and have that much success the way Dominick did. He relies on that angles and feints to create openings for strikes, mixing in striking with that knee tap takedown. And he beat Demetrius Johnson, Uriah Faber twice, TJ Dillashaw coming back from an ACL reconstructive surgery, Joseph Benavidez. Again, the list goes on and on. Dominick Cruz is by far one of the most innovative fighters we've ever seen in MMA. Coming in at number 11 is Jon Jones. Such a unique and versatile striking style. I mean, he's gifted with so many things, standing at 6'4" in light heavyweight and heavyweight. No one's seen a man with his stature. Got that 84-inch reach as well. If you guys remember back in the day, the way he was able to defend, all he needed to do was just to put his hand out straight like this, and his opponents couldn't reach him. And because he would stick his fingers out like this, the opponents were worried about getting poked in the eye. This guy is just so nasty in the ring, using his elbows, his knees as well, beating everyone along the way. Cormier, Cyril Gane, Rashad, Rampage, Lyoto, Shogun, Gustafsson. The list goes on and on. Jon Jones, greatest of all time. Number 10, I have Mirko Cro Cop. Right leg hospital, left leg cemetery. That left leg was absolutely devastating. I mean, he's got a strong boxing foundation, and then combining that with those Muay Thai techniques, he's got aggressive pressure and precision in those striking attacks. His career is illustrious, beating the likes of Wanderlei Silva, Josh Barnett, Mark Coleman. Absolute terrifying striker, Mirko Cro Cop. Coming in at number 9 is Jose Aldo. Again, devastating leg kicks and knees. You look at what he did to Uriah Faber. I'm pretty sure the doctor told Uriah that in another time, Uriah's leg would have to been amputated. And his knee knockout of Cub Swanson as well. Who does that? He's known for his explosive punching combinations and speed as well. He's been having a couple of boxing fights on the side and he's doing very well. And he's got great head movement and defense to avoid taking damage. Beating Chad Mendes twice. Chito Vera. I mean, still a fighter that's relevant today. And then that liver shot against Jeremy Stephens was absolutely brutal. I mean, you can see the pain and the grimacing in Jeremy's face. Jose Aldo still going strong. The next fighter that we have is Max Holloway. Probably the highest volume striker we have in the UFC other than Tony Ferguson and the Diaz brothers. He's just got that exceptional cardio and pace. And he combines that with his unique boxing style. Jabbing to the head, cross to the body, left hook upstairs. He's never stationary with his targets. So the amount of times he just pointed to the middle of the octagon and then started swinging. This guy's a wild man for sure. Beating the likes of Justin Gaethje, knocking him in the last second of the fight. Arguably beating Volkanovski in their second fight. Putting on a clinic on Brian Ortega and Calvin Kattar's faces. Max Holloway, number 8 greatest striker in UFC history. And for number 7, I have Alexander Volkanovski. Now, I know he's on a bit of a skid. I know he's just been knocked out by Islam and Ilia Topuria. But look at the career that Volkanovski has had. He's such a well-rounded striker, and he comes from a rugby background. He's got that excellent boxing skills and crisp punching combinations. We've never really seen Max Holloway get beaten like that, other than by Volkanovski in their third fight. He utilizes his strength and athleticism to overwhelm opponents in those striking exchanges. And he's known for his ability to mix up striking and wrestling to keep the opponents guessing. He beat Holloway 3 times. Brian Ortega, Yair Rodriguez, Jose Aldo, Chad Mendes. And in my opinion, He beat Islam in their first fight. Just an absolute legend. Don't let those last 2 losses make you forget just how great Alexander Volkanovski is. Number 6, we have Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. This guy is the poster boy for karate striking style in UFC. Look at his distance management and timing. He's got his hands down by his side. He's hopping right in front of you. He's using those side kicks to keep you away, and yet you can't touch him. His elusive footwork and ability to control range, using those feints and angles to set up counter strikes effectively. His knockout of Johnny Hendricks really put him on the map. Look at the way he put down Robert Whittaker, that spinning kick against Jake Allenberger, and going toe-to-toe with Darren Till. Anytime that Wonderboy fights, he's always got some tricks up his sleeve. Coming in at number 5 is Conor McGregor. This man had the touch of death with that devastating left hand and knockout power. Back in his prime, he had that karate style as well, moving in and out. He was always big on that movement culture, inspired by Ido Portal. He's kind of moved away from that a little bit, but back in the day, prime, he was just so confident, so aggressive. Straight away, he'll put you on the back foot with those spinning back kicks, with those spinning heel kicks, that left hand down the middle, that crazy left hook, the counter striking. He was so good at setting traps in that void and then capitalizing on openings with precision and power. 13-second KO knockout of Jose Aldo, destroying Chad Mendes, putting on a complete clinic on Eddie Alvarez, beating up Nate Diaz in their second fight. Conor McGregor, definitely well-deserved number 5 spot for the best strikers of all time. Coming in at number 4 is Alex Pereira. Powerful striker with a background in kickboxing. This guy was a former Glory champion, and then the former UFC middleweight champion, and now the current light heavyweight champion of the world. This man has got the best left hook we've ever seen, and the way he sets it up as well, so unorthodox. He will use his right leg kick and his right high kicks to push the opponent towards his left hand before letting it go and putting them in the shadow realm. Just ask Jamal Hill, ask Israel Adesanya. Just the way Alex Pereira was able to take over the UFC in such a short time. What a legendary career Alex Pereira has. Coming in at number 3 is Sean O'Malley. This guy is so flashy, so dynamic, and has such unorthodox techniques. You might be asking me, why are you putting him so high on the list? And the reason why is because he's able to defeat so many high-level opponents. Look at his resume. He knocked out Aljamain Sterling. He beat Petr Yan. Yes, it was controversial, but no one does that to Petr Yan. The way he's able to completely shut out Chito Vera in their second fight. Look at what he did to Thomas Almeida as well. I strongly believe that Sean O'Malley will become the best striker in the UFC if he continues to win. Number 2, we have Israel Adesanya. So fluid, so creative with his striking combinations. The way he feints, he's just an all-rounder. And it took someone like Alex Pereira to join the UFC to finally put a stop to Israel's dominance. He's got pinpoint accuracy and ability to pick opponents apart from range. I mean, he beat Alex Pereira, knocking him out. Robert Whittaker, Yoel Romero, Marvin Vettori, Kelvin Gastelum, Jared Cannonier, and the list goes on and on. One of my favorite fights that I've seen of Israel is the one against Brunson, where after so much trash talk, Israel just completely shut him out and really stamped himself as a legend of the UFC. Finally, at number 1, the greatest striker of all time is Anderson Silva. I mean, there's really no surprise there. He was just so slick, so accurate. His head movement was absolutely insane. At certain times, it looked like he was in a video game, the way he was just able to toy against his opponents. You look at his awesome resume, fighters like Forrest Griffin, Chael Sonnen, Dan Henderson, Vitor Belfort, Nick Diaz. And he has a fight against Chael Sonnen coming up where they're going to box. And I'm pretty sure Anderson's just going to absolutely destroy him and style on him. But still, Anderson Silva, greatest striker of all time.